All right, so this chapter focuses on the ancient Hebrews, the development of Judaism, the beliefs of Judaism, which is one of the world's major world religions and one of the very earliest monotheistic religions. Now, many of you will be familiar with several of the stories and the concepts presented here, especially if you've ever spent any time in a Christian church at all. So the early Hebrews, sometime between 2000 and 1500 BC, there's a group of that appear in Southwest Asia. The Israelites and the Jews. Now, very simple herders, like they're shepherds basically. Their culture does become a major influence on later civilizations, and they have a great impact on the world even to today, both culturally and religiously. Now, keep in mind, much of what we know of early Hebrews comes from the work of archaeologists and from the written accounts of Hebrew scholars that came later. As it is happening, it's passed down through oral tradition until the later scholars actually take time to write it all down. They also write down the laws of Judaism, the basic belief systems, all of that important information. Now, the religion followed by the Hebrews, Israelites, and modern Jews is called Judaism. It's called Judaism. It is a monotheistic religion. Who can tell me what a monotheistic religion is? That's right, Cassandra. Very good. Correct. It means, yes, very good. It means you only follow one God, the religion that believes in one God and one God only. That is a monotheistic religion. Now, Judaism is one of the earliest monotheistic religions. Hunter, sit in that seat there, honey. The one beside where you were sitting. Right. So Judaism is one of the very earliest monotheistic religions. It probably is predated by Zoroastrianism, which we don't really talk a lot about that particular religion, but there are some monotheistic religions that existed alongside or before Judaism. Nevertheless, this one is still practiced relatively widely across the world and has influenced other monotheistic religions like Islam and Christianity. And so it's had a great deal of influence. Now, the God of Judaism is called Yahweh. The term is used less often later on. That's the original name for the monotheistic God of Judaism. They stopped really using that term later on and took on the term Elohim, which basically means God. It's intended to elevate the monotheistic God of Judaism above other gods that were followed and believed in at the time. And so the use of the actual name Yahweh isn't very common as time goes on because it's supposed to be considered a holy name, and so not something that Jews would particularly say regularly because they don't want to be irreverent towards that name. So we're going to talk a little bit about Jewish beliefs. Your textbook doesn't go into it in detail about this, but I wanted to give you a little bit more depth on this. So the Hebrew Bible isn't called a Bible, it's called the Tanakh, which is actually an acronym between the three main portions of their holy texts. That's all combined together into this one holy text called the Tanakh. The first and most holy and most important would be the Torah. The Torah, and yes, you need to know that, which means the teachings or the 5 books of Moses. This basically is an outline of very early Jewish history as passed down through oral tradition, and also the laws that the Jews believe God gave to them. And so it's got a whole lot of laws, outlines of how people are expected to live their lives, everything from how to practice religious ceremonies to what kind of food you can eat. It's all outlined in the Torah for practitioners of Judaism. Are Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. They may sound familiar to you. Very important the Torah is. Secondly, the prophets. Now, the prophets are divided into former prophets, including Joshua, Judges, Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, and then the latter prophets. The final section of the Tanakh is called the Ketuvim. I could be pronouncing that incorrectly, but it means the writings. This contains a plethora of religious texts, including poetry, theology, drama. It includes the books that you would be familiar with as Psalms, Proverbs, Job, Song of Songs, Ruth, Lamentations, Ecclesiastes, Esther, Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah, and the Chronicles. So all of that, what Christians would call the Old Testament, makes up the Tanakh. Now keep in mind, if you're referring to and talking to someone who is Jewish about their holy book, it's really not polite to refer as the Old Testament. It would imply that they believe that there is a New Testament, and they do not. That is their entire holy book. So please keep that in mind. Be mindful and respectful of the religious beliefs of others. As you can probably imagine, in a world where many groups of people were polytheistic, especially in early human history, the practice of monotheism sets the Jews apart immediately. Now, central elements of Judaism, you need to be familiar with this. They very much value education in Jewish beliefs. Early history, this is mostly for men. Ideas of justice and righteousness are very prevalent throughout Jewish beliefs. Also, ideas of observance of religious and moral law, as outlined in the Torah. Especially Orthodox Jews very much place a great deal of emphasis on following the traditional laws and the Torah and its beliefs. Now, the Ten Commandments are a part of the original Jewish law, the Torah, and they're considered pretty much to be the most sacred and holy of the laws written down by Moses. It is believed that within Judaism, it is believed that God gave the Ten Commandments to Moses. It's also believed that those aren't the only laws that were given to Moses. Likewise, they believe that there are a whole system of laws called Mosaic laws that were given to Moses by God and then written down. And those are in the Torah. Again, these laws govern pretty much everything, every part of daily life, from very important religious ceremonies to basic things like not eating pork and not eating shellfish. Today, there are three main groups of Judaism, three segments more or less. The first would be called Orthodox Jews, and these are very traditional Jews who believe in observing the letter of the law as outlined in the Torah. So they strictly follow Mosaic law, like all of it. Second group is called Reform Jews, and they are much more, I suppose you could say, liberal-minded in how they approach their beliefs. They don't concern themselves with or follow as many of the ancient laws, and they believe that religion can and should evolve and change over time as need arises. The third group, conservative Jews, fall somewhere in between Orthodox Jews and Reform Jews. They try to preserve tradition, but at the same time, they can be flexible and can accept and do accept changes to the law as needed, though they are typically much less radical in those changes than, say, Reform Jews would be. Have any questions?